Good afternoon, folks. I've got what I call the graveyard shift just before lunch, so I'll try not to keep you too long. I'm new to this game. I'll be very upfront about it. My background is primarily in economic crime. That did involve securing and presenting digital evidence. But I suppose, as opposed to many of the speakers here today, many of the attendees here today, the clue is in our name. We're a crime investigation bureau. So we offer advice and engage people regarding security, but our primary function is to prevent, detect and investigate crime, okay? And cybercrime is no different to any other crime. So just to give you a bit of background, not too much obviously, we're part of organised and serious crime down in Garda Síochána. And I suppose most of you would recognise the names of some of the units here. They're all what we know as the National Detective Units, such as Immigration, Bureau of Criminal Investigation, Economic Crime Bureau, and we sit under the control of the Assistant Commissioner in Organised and Serious Crime. Again, you can see our role is prevention, detection, investigation of crime. I suppose one of our strongest and primary functions is computer forensics. We assist our other national units regarding a vast array of crimes as such. But I suppose our function from an investigative point of view would be cyber-dependent types of crime, okay? So, again, this is what as I said before, this is where we sit in the organisation. We would love to have 3 detective inspectors at the moment. We don't. We've only got 2. We've divided up our various, I suppose, sides of the house of what we do. You can see here we've a computer forensics side, triaging, and we have recently, which I'll get on to the next slide now, have developed satellite hubs, and we continue to expand and, I suppose, to try and keep up with the game as such. So, really what we've been doing in the last number of years is trying to expand our investigative side. As part of that, we now have satellite hubs throughout the country. We have 4 currently. We have Mullingar, which is closest. We have Cork, Wexford and Galway. We have plans to develop a further hub in the Cavan area. And as we expand further, we intend to have an actual hub in Dublin as well, because primarily as the national unit in Dublin, we tend to focus on the Dublin-related crime and tasks. You're lucky I'm actually wearing a suit today because we're in the process of moving premises. We'd all have hard hats on and jeans on the last couple of weeks. So along with the other national detective units, we're now moving to a purpose-built facility in Military Road, just opposite Houston Station. That's ongoing. That will allow us to expand. And I suppose having spoken to a number of people at our stand today, many people were asking about recruitment and how they would, join the Cybercrime Bureau or what were their options. And one of the things the organisation is looking at, and hopefully in Q1, Q2, is to employ civilian forensic analysts, whereby you don't have to be part of Garda Síochána or a sworn member. You can apply directly, and that's one of the things that will be coming online in Q1, Q2. And what I'd say in general is, from our perspective, our goal is to ensure that at every level in the organisation, somebody has some form of cyber knowledge. To the 2 o'clock in the morning, if an issue arose and you called your local Garda station, at least the member you meet will have the idea of the first steps that need to be taken, and thereafter our specialist units would step in. So that's part of our role, is to ensure that members that you meet on a database have some sort of cyber knowledge about crime and about how to react to it. As I said, we have our satellite hubs as well, and we also are training digital evidence first responders that will go out to the sites of searches, crimes, etc., and be able to secure evidence in that regard. So there, I suppose, are our primary functions as set out there. To provide support, our forensics obviously is a very, very important part of what we do, and obviously to educate and engage with our stakeholders and attempt to prevent crime. And obviously then, as I've said, we're trying to expand our investigations, such as the previous speaker spoken, ransomware attacks, etc. I suppose that's our operating model. It's kind of covered that ground already. We at the lowest level, I said we want to train all our members to have some sort of cyber knowledge. Our hubs are forming very, very important parts of our plans now to have a more localised response to these issues. And obviously then ourselves then at the top tier then, we look at policy, expansion, legislation that we can use, software, techniques, hardware, all those things we examine constantly. We engage with external partners, and also with our own IT within the Department of Justice and in Garda Síochána. So many of you will have seen what I'm going to show you next, and a lot of the other speakers have covered this. I mean, cybercrime is a matter of perception. Cyber attacks are a matter of perception. So if you look here, that's what we see. So very often when we look inwardly at what we're doing, how we're protecting ourselves, we very, very often see only what we're doing and not what we haven't done. Okay? So if I asked you to find 4 circles there, okay? And all I'm saying about that is that very, very often we focus on, you know, what we can stop. We need to look what we can stop, what we haven't done. What can we do? What more can we do? Who else can we engage with? What controls are we putting in place? As I said, my previous background is in economic crime, and you could apply this quote from Robert Mueller to say we had a saying back in the day that there are those companies who have been defrauded and those companies who don't know they've been defrauded. And there is a mirror to cyber attacks as well. And there's also those who have been hacked and don't know they've been hacked, as in the now. Okay? So we need to be aware of the threats. And when we identify the threats and we realise something has happened, we need to take action. And that's where we come in very much after the fact. So the type of crimes that we're seeing primarily, so on the left are what we'd call generally cyber-enabled crimes, or normal crimes, but they'll involve a cyber element. And obviously the vast majority of what we see is child sexual abuse material. Okay, and that probably takes up 60% of what we deal with from a forensic perspective in particular. Now, very often we'll assist with gathering evidence in respect to those matters, but again, we have other national units such as the National Protective Service Bureau and local protective service units who will actually investigate those. We will provide a backup service and a role in securing evidence. Any type of crime, the biggest thing we'll see nowadays, every crime, organised crime, how they communicate with each other, drugs, extortion, all of these now have a cyber element, which is the huge change, obviously, we're seeing in the organisation. There's very, very few serious crimes that are being investigated that don't have a cyber element, that somebody hasn't used a laptop to communicate. All these matters, okay? And then, mirroring what our previous speaker said, we're obviously are engaged with the investigation of ransomware and information attacks as well. And that's our primary investigative responsibility there. Look, these are just some figures. Obviously, I think the contact group, we are estimated to have made 150 plus, I think, at this stage. And varying amounts of phishing attacks. You know, phishing attacks can be anybody that's engaging, any company that has to engage with an individual or an organisation, or anybody that's expecting contact from an individual or an organisation is open to an attack. Could be €100, it could be €150,000 for a CEO fraud. So because of the world today, we're constantly communicating with service providers, energy providers, banks, and anybody who's engaging or expecting contact and who isn't, I suppose, thorough, is open to attack. If I just give, I suppose there's 2 key messages today, and one of them is this message. Because we're a law enforcement agency, I suppose that's our business. Our position is that you shouldn't pay a ransom, and I know that's easier said than done. I know our previous speaker spoke about the economic implications. For a small to medium-sized firm, will paying a ransom result in end of business? What we would say is that there is no guarantee that your data will be decrypted. There is no guarantee that your data or certain data won't be leaked. It leads to an incentive for criminality. And I think one of our first speakers this morning, Mikko, mentioned in his country, in Finland, there's less armed robberies now than ever. There's a reason for that. It's not lucrative. This is. Okay? So what I'd say is that ultimately by paying ransomware, you're supporting criminality. And I appreciate that's easier said than done. So our position and position of law enforcement agencies, you shouldn't pay ransom. Okay? I get it. In some cases, it's very much an economic rather than a moral decision, but that's our position. And that's one of the messages probably we would like to convey today. As I've spoken previously, the way in which we engage with outside agencies, the way in which our lives have changed, banking from a phone, banking from text messages, alerts about attacks, don't log in, please log into this. All of these, our interactions now are subject to disruption. And we can see from energy providers, banking, all these where people are on a day-to-day basis have become immune to engaging with people at a very, very simple level. On an individual basis, we need to be aware. And then on an organizational basis, when we receive unsolicited communications, do we need to have our CEO's email on our website? Are we checking emails that are coming in? Have we a mailbox that's filtered? Are we examining email addresses correctly? Have we processes in place to say that, a 2-3-step process regarding processing payments? All of these issues, any weakness in that regard will be exploited. There's a few, be very, very careful, Very often the weaknesses in what happens or when we're victims are people. And as a result of that, when I say that automatically, we need, as a police force, we thrive on intelligence and we thrive on engagement and we thrive on people reporting to us and speaking to us from the lowest level to the highest level. So when we say the people factor, we're very, very conscious then straight away if somebody has made a mistake, clicked on something they shouldn't have clicked or not followed a protocol, straight away we're in blame territory. Okay? But very, very often, the weakness lies in people, not in systems. We can improve our systems and we can identify and we can be self-aware that our systems are not 100% watertight, but we're aware of that and we can identify it. It's very hard for us to identify the people factor. I spoke with somebody not that long after my arrival into cybercrime, and they gave the analogy of someday you go and you're very excited to buy your first house. And your first house, you walk in, you go, I'd like a TV there, I'd like a sofa there, I'd like a table there. Someday I'll afford those solid walnut floors. You get all that done, and you're just so happy, and you get a nice rug and 45-inch TV, surround sound, everything. Then you look around your house and you go, not quite sure about that garden fence. I think I'll build a wall. You build a wall. You feel a bit more secure in your home. Then you go, I think I'll get a gate at the front. Then you save up, you buy a gate. Then you get really, really aware. You might have young children go, right, I need to get an alarm in my house. And you get an alarm in your house and you think, I'm made. Then your neighbour gets it out, well, I have a monitored alarm. You get a monitored alarm. Then you go, that guy 3 doors up has CCTV. You get CCTV put in. You might get a ring doorbell. If you're like me and you have a 16-year-old boy whose head is in the ground and he's the last person to leave the house in the morning and he doesn't turn the alarm on, you've wasted a lot of money. So that's the people factor. He's a great kid, don't worry. But I can't allow for the fact, despite repeat to fade with him, if he doesn't turn the alarm on in the morning, if he doesn't follow the protocols, I don't run that type of houses, okay. But if he doesn't follow protocols, or he doesn't, do what he's supposed to do, if he doesn't follow the processes that the company has put in place, you have an issue, okay? And that's the people factor, okay? So you can see there's a list of, the processes are there. And very often we're aware of the processes. We're aware of the weaknesses. Maybe our own pride will tell us, well, we were 90, I can see down the bottom, we're 90% there. We forget about the 10%. But, I'm in the room and I've had experts are speaking today on security. These are just our observations. And these observations date back from my time in economic crime investigation, where people thought they were watertight, and then there was an element of trust put in somebody, and it failed. Or they realised when they engaged somebody from a security perspective that just things weren't watertight. So it's just something to be aware of. Look, many of you be aware of these pointers, smart pointers. Restrict public-facing information. Okay, again, this gets back to the fact that we're in a society where we want to engage with people. We want people to see what we do. We want to sell ourselves. Be very, very conscious of what information you put out in public when there's not, and make sure there's controls about it. Simple things like passwords, authentication, all those type of things. Protect your online meetings. Again, most common ones, as commonly referred to, CEO frauds. Be aware of emails coming in. Don't assess them either privately or as an entity. Beware of unsolicited emails. Back to processes. Ensure that the software you have is updated and the latest available. And the last thing, which is part of what we get onto now ourselves, is tell somebody internally and externally, the right people, that something has happened. And the second key message from today, I would say, and I'll get on to it, is report. We have a number of examples. Obviously, the game room, we can't name names or speak about individual cases, but we've ransomware for a large engineering company, via phishing, led to a privilege escalation by the suspects within the systems. Exfiltrated that amount of data. Loss currently unknown. Suspects identified. Investigation ongoing. A solicitor's firm, 1.1 million. Again, see what was commonly referred to as a CEO type fraud, where an email purporting to be from somebody internally wasn't, and led to the transfer of funds. Funds were not recovered, and suspect has been identified. So there's a number of statistics there. I suppose there's quite a lot there. I'll pick out a couple. I suppose the main thing is, and getting back to reporting from our perspective, those that paid ransom, according to recent reports, 8% got their data back. 25% got less than half. And I suppose the most frightening statistic is, we believe that's only concerning 19% of the actual incidents, because only 19% are reported. Okay? I suppose the key takeaway, the second key takeaway, is the reporting of these matters. And I'll get back to the house. Hopefully you all get home safe today, and you wake up tomorrow morning, everything is fine. But let's just say one of you wakes up tomorrow morning and you look out on the street outside where your car is parked, and the wing mirror is broken on your car. Now, the first reaction is, oh, Second reaction is, I've got to get to work. Somebody's after walking by during the night. They've kicked the wing mirror off my car. If I ring the police, the guards, how long will it take for them to get here? I'm in a real hurry. I haven't got the Ring doorbell in this case. I haven't got CCTV. It probably happened at 3 o'clock in the morning. There's nobody around. Will I report it? I'll think about it. Maybe I'll report this evening. But if I go this evening, might be a queue at the police station. No, I won't report it. Okay? Let's just say in your housing estate, that's happened 8 times that night. And everyone had the same attitude as you. I can tell you, having been in operational policing 6 months ago, that the following morning, the local superintendent is having a meeting about what's happened in the previous 24 hours. And he doesn't know anything about your car being broken outside your house. He doesn't know anything about the other 8 people. So, as far as he's concerned, it hasn't happened. So, now, I'm not for 1 minute telling you that every wing mirror that's broken on a car leads to somebody being caught, or But what it can do is it can allow ourselves and other law enforcement agencies to know what's happened, to analyse trends, to see, can we take preventative action? Can we anticipate? Can we increase our knowledge with how to investigate matters? Can we find new ways of securing evidence? Can we meet people along the way who've had similar experiences? So from that perspective, I have a list of reasons there why we say, please report, okay? And I'm not for 1 minute telling you that every time you report a crime of any type, that the culprit will be caught, okay? But increasingly, police work has become about crime analysis and anticipation, and also, believe it or not, we have finite resources. People think we don't, but we do. But we need to deploy our resources effectively the same way a private sector or other public sector bodies use their resources as effectively as possible. We need to do that too, okay? And if we see increasing trends, and if my chief superintendent is looking for more staff or more resources, we need to be able to say, well, that particular type of crime is increasing, we need to address it, okay? So I would encourage you, privately and as part of your companies and your entities, to please report and engage with us, okay? And at least, at the very least, it's a knowledge sharing exercise. And as I suppose as law enforcement, that has to be our position. We need crime reported. Nobody likes to hear that crime is increasing in any area or any country or in any particular field, because I suppose the flip side of that is then there's an element, well, have we failed in some way? But we need to know what's happening, okay? And in order to build our response and build our expertise and our knowledge, we need to know about what crimes are happening. That's kind of really it from my perspective. As I said, the name is in the title. There's people with far more to say about security and I suppose the intricacies of what's involved. Very much we are an after the fact consideration very, very often, because we come after there has been a problem. I've dealt with it over my life, it's fine. And when people see me calling to the door, they know it's bad news. But very often when people are contacting us, something has happened at this stage, okay? So I suppose with any crime that's been reported, you know, and even at a technical level, is that when you come to police have some sort of idea what exactly has happened, okay? And we will try and help you with the why, and obviously take it from there. I have, fortunately, I have a colleague, Paul Johnson, who's 21 years experience in cyber investigations and cyber crime. And he's very young. But if you have any questions, obviously not about specific cases, but if you have any questions in general, probably Paul, probably the best man to ask, to bring up to the stage. So we're happy to take questions, and just thanks very much for your time and your attention.
Thanks very much. That was actually really interesting, because it ultimately brings it down to our communities. I do have a question about the low levels of reporting, particularly for small, very small, medium enterprises. I work out in the community and do a lot of these kind of talks as well. What are your thoughts about how you can increase the chances of people reporting things? I was speaking to someone and he called it an idiot tax that he paid. Was worried about the GDPR implications, so said nothing. But the bigger issue there is that you've endangered a wider community, because those customers are now more at risk of phishing, their data's been leaked, and maybe they aren't aware that that was the route. Have you any thoughts about it? You talked about something like 19% of people report. So it's a public issue for everybody. Have you any thoughts about how you can encourage participation, that if it happens to a small company, that they do report it, because they have to protect their customers as well?
I hope I've encouraged some people today, have I? Now, look, I said to you, my background prior to the Cybercrime Bureau was economic crime, and let's call a spade a spade. It's the reputational issue. what's the name? The penguins of Madagascar. Smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave. Cute and cuddly. Everything's just fine, So there is that element to it, that, people are concerned from a reputation perspective, and entities are concerned because, we've been a victim of ransomware. I'll take my business elsewhere. Thanks very much. We've been burgled. I won't leave my property on your premises. That's the long and short of it. I suppose our message is, if you don't think this crime is going to happen to you, you've your head in the sand. But we very, very much have a collaborative approach with victims, and that's how we work. We work collaboratively with people. And look, the answer to it is for us to get the message out, and not just the Cybercrime Bureau, but on Garda Síochána in general, which we try to do, is that, in order for the bigger picture to work, we need people to come on board and engage with us. It is easier said than done, and I don't have the answers. I don't know, Paul?
I could say ditto at that stage. What we're seeing at the moment is that a lot of the more primary targets now of the likes of ransomware are the SME sector. And that is increasing significantly as far as that is concerned. Yeah, as Gerard said, at the end of the day, we have to work together. I was at a meeting there recently in The Hague, and a comment was made by one of the partners in law enforcement, and what they said is that it takes a network to defeat a network. And at the end of the day, the cyber criminal community is a network, and you are part of the other network along with us. And if we don't work together, we're constantly going to be coming from behind. There is a reputational impact, potentially, as far as companies are concerned, if they put their hand up and say, yeah, we've been hacked. But if they don't, the colleagues in other companies are going to have exactly the same impact, both from the ransomware itself and from a damaged reputation. And I could be a bit facetious and say that if you do report it, there may be a reputational positive from your customers saying, well, they are prepared to say, yes, we have a problem, and we're addressing it and we're doing something about it. But we have to work together, because it can't be about law enforcement and corporate sector, or law enforcement and private sector, and nobody works together. We'll never win this battle if we do that separately.
So I have an interest in ransomware statistics, as you'll see later when I speak. But I'm just curious, in your specific context, you obviously keep some details about cybercrime statistics here in Ireland. Do you share those with any other law enforcement entities worldwide? Do you speak to any academics about how you could use that data in different ways? Does it go anywhere outside of Ireland?
Well, many of our reports are on public forums. They're on our portal. They're publicly reported. And then obviously we engage with Interpol and Europol. We have specialists, that are on secondment to Europol, Interpol, specifically in cyber. And obviously trends are analysed. We'd like that to happen on a more regular basis probably, and have more resources doing that. But part of our remit is to engage with our partners across Europe and Interpol to look at areas, and obviously, examine. Look, the biggest challenge we face in law enforcement is that I think every speaker's hit on it today, is there are no borders. Okay, huge challenges. The problem that we have, and getting back to our function, it's crime investigation and detection. So what we know is one thing, what we can prove on evidence is a completely different factor. So the answer is we share statistics all the time with our law enforcement partners through Europol, Interpol in various forms, and Paul goes to The Hague regularly as well. But what I would say is that the difference, the challenge we face is evidence, and gathering evidence across border and securing it and presenting it in court, and that's our biggest challenge. So,
is this up? There we go. I would just echo that and say that, the ransomware risk is not evenly distributed across the globe. And part of the reason we need to study this, and I'm asking this question, is so that you can see that. Because if you file an MLAT with another country that doesn't have any ransomware incidents, or doesn't have many, then it's very hard to get them motivated, because they're literally not dealing with the same level of risk as you are here in Ireland. So that's why I'm trying to stir that pot.
We're the same as anyone else. We build relationships. We need to build relationships with other law enforcement agencies, and that's part of it. And particularly having been abroad, with EU, different types of even VAT frauds, online frauds, it's in everybody's interest to get together, and obviously that's part of something that we wish to foster, and we're part of as well. Okay. Thanks very much, everyone.